morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. And how do you do? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. And God loves you. Ooh, ooh. You know why he loves you? Because he woke you up this morning like he woke me up this morning. No matter how we look, he loves us just the way we are. I love me just the way I am, and I hope and pray you love you just the way you are. Thank God for waking us up this morning because he didn't have to do it. So with that, we want to give him honor, praise, and glory. So y'all know this is my time for my testimonial song that I use from 6:40 to 6:45. And these songs I pick through the Holy Spirit who increases my spiritual maturity, gives me wisdom, and speaks to my very soul, my heart, and my spirit. So at 6:45, I'll be back with the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, daily reflection. But for right now, this is my time. Enjoy. While I get ready, right? Okay, so let's see. Speaking of my time, that's the name of the It's Your Time by Luther and Barnes, the Sunset Jubileers. You've been faithful, you've been true, and you've done all that you could do. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You applauded for the rest. Now it's your time to be blessed. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You've been faithful. You've been true. And you've done all you could do. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You applauded for the race. Now it's your time. It's your time to be blessed. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You waited so long, but you held on and you were strong. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You encouraged everyone else when you needed for yourself. And I want you to know that for your faithfulness, it's your time. You waited and waited so long, so long. But you held on, you were strong. And for your faithfulness, it's your time. You encouraged everyone when you needed for yourself. And for your faithfulness. It's your time. Why? Because you've been faithful and you've been true. And guess what? You're doing it all for the Creator who has done it for you. And so, for all your sacrifice, for all your commitments, for your dedication, it's your time. Obviously, because you are here this morning, January the 27th, for the Alcoholics Anonymous Daily Reflections reading, and it is freedom from guilt. No, I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been a proud, grateful, and humble member for 31 plus years. And I'm going to claim it. When God wakes me up on February the 23rd of 2020, we will be celebrating 32 years, one day at a time, from the devastating disease of alcoholism, drug addiction, prostitution, the whole lifestyle. But guess what? It's my time. And obviously, it's your time for our spirits to meet and to help one another stay sober and help the next alcoholic achieve sobriety, okay? And so, as you can see, with the dedication, I do that because through Alcoholics Anonymous, the spiritual principles, I was able to find a God of my understanding, and it increased my spirituality. I went through several spiritual experiences that created a spiritual awakening to the point where, through a dream, God showed that I needed a covenant, I needed a shepherd, I needed a church family. And guess what? I was obedient, and I've been a member of Canaan Baptist Church, right? My pastor, Christopher Allen Bullock, for over 16 years now, but I've been in recovery 31 years. So you do the math, right? And so it was from this topic that we get from the daily reflections every day, how we go through the process, how we go through the journey, how we review our knee-bowing experience, how we go through the ups and downs of where it all started from, how we are willing to go back and read our book from the beginning of our lives up until this moment, and what we're going to do to help, with the help of God, write the remaining chapters of our book, right? And so without doing that, how can we be free from guilt? So that's what the topic is today. All right. So I want to, again, ask you to close your eyes. Now, you should know the benefits of closing your eyes now, right? Because I want you to hear. And hopefully you can begin to listen, right? So when you close your eyes, you're not looking at the messenger. You're listening to the message. And so this works for me because when I'm in my meeting every day, sometimes I let somebody else read so I can listen. And then I may read it out loud myself so I can hear myself tell myself the truth about what I'm reading. Okay? So that's why I asked you to close your eyes, why I share the reading for today, January the 27th, AA Daily Reflection, and it is entitled Freedom from Guilt. Once we dissect that, then I will read the Alcoholics in Recovery perspective. Then I share my perspective, and hopefully you'll get to share your perspective. They say all human beings are ill to some extent, and all human beings can benefit from the 12 spiritual principles founded by Dr. Bob, Bill W., and a host of others, Carl Jung, So the Washingtonians almost had the answers. The Oxford group almost had the answer, but Alcoholics Anonymous had found the answer because it's nearly 90 years old, because of people like me who are still staying sober and, more importantly, helping others to achieve sobriety. All right, so close your eyes. Oh, take a sip of coffee. All right. And here to listen. Okay. All right, so let's do this. Okay, here we go. January the 27th, AA Daily Reflection, Freedom from Guilt. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 47. When I become willing to accept my own powerlessness, I begin to realize that blaming myself for all the trouble in my life can be an ego trip back into hopelessness. Asking for help and listening deeply to the messages inherent in the steps and traditions of the program make it possible to change those attitudes which delay my recovery. Before joining AA, I had such a desire for approval from people in powerful positions that I was willing to sacrifice myself and others to gain a foothold in the world. I invariably came to grief. In the program, I find true friends who love, understand, and care to help me learn the truth about myself. With the help of the 12 steps, I am able to build a better life, free of guilt and the need for self-justification. Open your eyes, huh? Did you get that? Hmm? You heard it, right? But did you listen? Okay. So now what we're going to do is read it together so you can hear something differently and maybe listen to yourself read it. All right. So here we go. Okay. January the 27th, AA Daily Reflections, reading. It shouldn't say ready, but reading. Freedom from guilt. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 47. When I become willing to accept my own powerlessness, I begin to realize that blaming myself for all the trouble in my life can be an ego trip back into hopelessness. Asking for help and listening deeply to the messages inherent in the steps and traditions of the program make it possible to change those attitudes which delay my recovery. Before joining AA, I had such a desire for approval from people in powerful positions that I was willing to sacrifice myself and others to gain a foothold in the world. I invariably came to grief. In the program, I find true friends who love, understand, and care to help me learn the truth about myself. With the help of the 12 steps, I am able to build a better life free of guilt and the need for self-justification. Wow. Do you realize what you have just read and just heard and hopefully listened to? Do you see the first word? Freedom. Freedom. Let's marinate on that word right now. Freedom. Freedom. And when I think about freedom, I think about being free. And God gave me the acronym for free with the help of my buddy from North Carolina, Reggie Dillard. From recovery, emerge empowered. Free from recovery, emerge empowered. When you have been set free, and set free indeed, you experience freedom. Oh my God, I am experiencing such a level of freedom. I am that I've never experienced before. Each day it gets stronger and stronger and better and greater. This Holy Spirit within me is creating such a transformation that I can't contain myself a lot of times, right? Because I have been set free to experience freedom from all things. All right, so let's get into the topic now. It says freedom from. Let's stop there. What do you need to be freed from? What has you in bondage? What has you in jail? What has you imprisoned? What do you need to be set free from? I tell you, boy, listen, I just take these words one by one, and I'm trying to get the true understanding and the meaning and the spiritual message it's trying to bring forth to me. So that's why I take my time and decipher each word. So freedom from what? Now, when we joined Alcoholics Anonymous, we did not come in waving our hands and say, I want to go. No. It's not in our human nature. No, it's not. And so God, unknowingly to us, do for us what we can't do for ourselves. And so when we come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, we first have to go back to that moment of desperation, to that moment of humiliation, to that moment of helplessness and hopelessness and self-loathing. We have to go back there first. Because when we go back there, we realize, we see, we feel the devastation of wanting to be set free. Cost what it may, free me. Free me. I can't do this anymore. I want to be set free, or I want to die. So when I go back underneath that park car 31 plus years ago, yes, I was at the point of no return. Either I'm going all the way or I'm not going, but it wasn't my decision. I just had the desire to be set free in one way, shape, form, or fashion. And I hollered out to this God that I didn't know, take me out this life now or show me a better way. Free me. So when we go back to that moment, and I go back to that moment often because I need not ever forget where I came from and what has led me to this road of recovery, to be set free from recovery, emerge empowered. And so when we talk about freedom from, the first thing we who are in recovery, freedom from the pain. Freedom from the pain. Oh, freedom from the pain. Oh, freedom from the pain. Freedom from the pain. Freedom from the hurt. Freedom from the guilt and shame. I want to be set free. The pain is too great. It's too great. It's too great. And so when we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, At that very moment, when we say, help me, we are really asking for help to be set free from the pain. Oh, it is so painful. Because this is not your ordinary disease, right? We talking about a spiritual sickness. We're talking about an obsession and compulsion, right? And that's why people don't understand the disease of addiction. It's a disease it's a disease all of its own, right? It's a spiritual disease. And it is so painful. All right, so when we come in, we do and are asking for freedom from the pain. So let's go into the discussion, okay? All right, so it says, where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. So this is where we get freedom from guilt. We who are in this journey of recovery, we are filled with so much guilt. We are filled with so much shame. We are filled with so much despair, right? But guess what? We blame others for our pain, for our shame, for our guilt. We blame others. Yes, we do. It's natural to blame others for our condition. It's a natural, instinct to take the focus off you and put it on somebody else. The blame game. How many of you, all of you, blame people, blame situations, blame circumstances for who you are, who you have become, what you are going through, right? What you have said, what you did, you are blaming others. And that's the first thing it says in this reading, right? Where it says here, where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and our thought. Wow, that is powerful. No, see, that's why this recovery thing is a process. It's a journey. We don't automatically understand. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? He did this, she did that. One for this and one for that. I blamed my family. I blame my parents. I blame my Aunt Margaret. I blame other people for what happened to me, what became of me. I blame them. My father was a womanizer. I wanted to be like my dad. So I blamed him for the confusion of my sexuality. I didn't know whether I wanted to be a boy or a girl. I wanted to be just like my dad. If he liked women, I should like women. If he eat eggs, I should eat eggs, right? If he holds his glass that way, I should hold this glass that way. I should hold my glass that way. If he pees that way, I want to pee just like him. I blamed my dad. I blamed my mother for being weak, not understanding that she didn't have a choice at that time. But I blamed her for being weak. I didn't want to be like my mother. I didn't want to be a female because it was shown to me that women were weak. I blamed my mother. I blamed my sisters and my brothers, for making me competitive, for making me compete against them. I blamed them for my manipulation. I blamed them for loving, for giving my dad too much attention. I blamed my siblings. So we learn early on in our development, not what's wrong with us, but what happened to us. And so when we develop that attitude early on, we have a life of pointing the finger. Yes. But guess what? That changed. When Edwina wanted to do what Edwina wanted to do, right? It wasn't a matter of blaming nobody else. I wanted to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it and how I wanted to do it. But guess what? If it didn't turn out right, I wasn't going to blame myself. Now, how hypocritical is that? All right. So we must, as it says, drop the blame, the word blame from our speech and our thought. So let's go to the reader's perspective, right? He says, when I become willing to accept my own powerlessness, I begin to realize that blaming myself for all the trouble in my life can be an ego trip back into hopelessness. Did you hear that? When I become willing to accept my own powerlessness, I begin to realize that blaming myself for all the trouble in my life can be an ego trip back into hopelessness. Yes. See, there were times when I wanted to blame this person and blame that person, but guess what? There came a time and there comes a time in our lives that we chose to do what we wanted to do. We choose what we want to do. So therefore, we have to be held accountable for the choices we make, for the things we choose, irregardless of our justification or rationalization. So we can't always blame anything and everybody because the finger points back at us because of the choices and the decisions that we make. Even as a child. Don't touch that. Don't touch that. Right? And so when it talks about, the powerlessness, when I accept my own powerlessness, not power, but powerlessness, because if it was power, right? So why would I be sitting up here talking about this? Because if it was power, I've gotten everything I want, I would have become. No, Edwina. No, you can't have it both ways. Every human being is ill to some extent, even though you don't know it, including you, right? And so let's go on because I can get there, right? So the next things it says, right? When it says blaming myself for all the trouble in my life can be an ego trip back into hopelessness. And so let me stay there. This is why most alcoholics, unknowingly to them, we stay out there as long as we do, right? Because sooner or later, we begin to see something ain't right, but we're not going to admit it. We're not going to be defeated. We're not going to let that, no. But we recognize something ain't right, right? And so when we see that something is not right, we think we have the power to control it. We think we have the power to change it, but we don't. And that's why we have to accept our powerlessness. But before we accept our powerlessness, oh man, we go through it. And the more we go through it and trying to figure out, understand it, the deeper in depression we get. Yes. We start the self-loathing. We start the self-doubt. We start, the low self-esteem, all that. We start blaming ourselves, right? And we fall back into this vicious cycle. And so that's why we got to keep drinking, because once we get sober, we realize what we did, what we said, and we got to drink to get over it, right? And it puts us back into a state of hopelessness, okay? He says here, asking for help and listening deeply to the messages inherent in the steps and traditions of the program make it possible to change these attitudes which delay my recovery. Did you see what it says? It says asking for help. Underneath that parked car, I cried out, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now and show me a better way. Huh? Show me a better way. And I was put on this pathway to recovery. Not recovered, recovery. I'm being put on the pathway to freedom from that pain. Yes. And so oftentimes when we are at that state of hopelessness and we ask for help, we need to listen deeply to who this God or this creator has put in our path, right? And in my case, it was through the steps and the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous that came by way of the rehabs and the detoxification programs. Yes, that's how it came for me. Some people just come right off the block into Alcoholics Anonymous and put before us is our road to freedom. Freedom first from the pain. Freedom from the hopelessness and the helplessness. And when we go into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, we see other people who look just like us, who don't look just like us, but we have the same problem. We couldn't stop drinking. And so putting on this pathway to recovery, we see that, how did they get that? How are they able to smile? How are they able to? Why? Because it's inherently in the steps, the 12 spiritual steps and the 12 spiritual traditions. And that's why it says, right? And listening deeply to the messages inherent in the steps and traditions of the program make it possible, to change those attitudes which may delay my recovery. A lot of people have a problem with AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, but guess what? It really is a program of attitude adjustments. So if you don't want to say Alcoholics Anonymous, you can say I'm going to a program to adjust my attitude. Those old ideas, attitudes, and behaviors that were formulated way, way back, right? And if we don't apply new principles, spiritual principles, to change our old attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, we're going to repeat what we've been doing all our life. So Alcoholics Anonymous attitude adjustment helps us to change our attitude. All God asks us to do is to be willing to be changed. We can't change ourselves. We tried. Right? All right. So, all right. I got but a minute or so, okay? So it says, before joining AA, I had such a desire for approval from people in powerful positions that I was willing to sacrifice myself and others to gain a foothold in the world. Yeah, see, before joining AA, I had such a desire from approval for people. And let me tell you, some people, you will hear this, and I'm sharing it with you now, suffer way before alcoholism. They suffer from PBD. Yes, PPD, people-pleasing disease. I recognized that my first addiction was attention. I was addicted to getting attention from my dad. I wanted my dad to approve everything I did. I did any and everything in the world to get his approval, his acceptance, right? So I recognize by going into my history, not what's wrong with me, but what happened to me. And so my first addiction was PPD, people-pleasing disease. Okay, all right. All right, so now it says, and of course that perpetuated into me going into the community, buying my friends, trying to be the center of attention, making myself feel this or feel that. Whatever you say, I'll do. Whatever you want, I'll do. The whole 9 yards, just to have a sense of belonging, just to have a sense of closeness. And what did that bring me? Grief. It brought me grief. Why? Because you were just like me, seeking the same attention in a different way, shape, form, or fashion. That's why it says we are all ill to some extent, right? And so I got about a minute now. Okay. So then it says, in the program, I find true friends who love, understand, and care to help me learn the truth about myself. Do you hear that? I find true friends who love, understand, and care to help me learn the truth about myself. To thy own self be true, but you need help. You need help from others so that you can tell yourself the truth. Without that, we are lost, okay? And the last thing it says here, with the help of the 12 steps, I am able to build a better life, free from guilt and the need for justice, self-justification. I am free from guilt, self-guilt. Having that abortion as a prostitute took me a long time to forgive myself. Having the guilt of abandoning and neglecting my children. Yes, the guilt and shame I had from disappointing my parents. What about the guilt I had from Edwina? So, it's time to go, y'all. I got to go to my meeting. All right, so wear your mask, social distancing, get vaccinated, get your booster shot, right? Be free from guilt in the event you cause the death of someone because you refuse to wear a mask or you refuse to get vaccinated. You can be set free from guilt because guess what? If it happens, you're going to feel guilty. But there's hope. But there's always prevention too. So be safe. Put your mask on, social distancing, right? Get vaccinated, get your booster shot, get your children vaccinated. Wear that mask. Take all them other masks off and put on the mask. That's going to save your life. All right. To God be the glory. I want y'all to be safe. Please go to the 12 steps and 12 traditions to read up on what we talked about today. Educate yourself, do your own research, and come back and share the hope and be set free. From recovery, emerge empowered. To God be the glory. I love you. I love you.